The oligarch pretended to be a taxi driver to check where his wife constantly goes, but what he saw. Once a wealthy oligarch named Dimitri noticed that his wife, Maria, had been acting strangely. She would often leave the house for hours on end without giving any explanation. Dimitri tried to ask her about it. But Maria always had an excuse or a vague answer. He grew suspicious and started to wonder if his wife was having an affair. Dimitri decided to take matters into his own hands and investigate. He devised a plan to disguise himself as a taxi driver to follow his wife and see where she was going. He knew that it was a risky plan, but he was desperate to find out the truth. He rented a taxi and put on a fake beard and glasses. He drove around the city until he spotted his wife leaving their home and getting into another car. He started to follow her discreetly, trying not to draw attention to himself. He watched as the car pulled up to an expensive hotel, and his wife got out. She went inside and disappeared from his view. Dimitri parked the taxi nearby and waited. After a few hours, he saw his wife leave the hotel and get back into the car that had dropped her off. Dimitri followed the car to an upscale apartment complex and watched as his wife went inside. Dimitri was furious and heartbroken. He had suspected that his wife was cheating on him, but seeing it with his own eyes was a devastating blow. He sat in his taxi, feeling betrayed and alone. He couldn't believe that his wife would do this to him after all they had been through. They had been married for over 20 years and had built a life together. Dimitri knew that he couldn't confront his wife yet. He needed time to process what he had seen and figure out his next move. He continued to follow her for several weeks, and each time she went to the same hotel or apartment complex. He knew that he needed to confront her eventually, but he wasn't sure how to do it without causing a scene. One day, Dimitri decided to take a different approach. Instead of following his wife, he decided to confront her lover. He did some research and found out that the man's name was Alexei, and he worked at a nearby bank. Dimitri went to the bank and waited for Alexei to finish work. When he saw him, he approached him and introduced himself as a businessman looking to invest in the bank. Dimitri started to ask Alexei about his work, but he soon turned the conversation to his wife. He asked if Alexei knew her and if they were friends. Alexei seemed hesitant at first, but he eventually admitted that he had been having an affair with Dimitri's wife for several months. Dimitri felt a wave of anger and sadness wash over him. He couldn't believe that his wife had been lying to him for so long. He decided to confront her and asked for a divorce. Maria was shocked and tried to deny everything, but Dimitri had proof. He showed her pictures and videos of her with Alexei and told her that he knew everything. Maria was devastated and begged for forgiveness, but Dimitri knew that he couldn't trust her anymore. They went through a painful divorce, and Dimitri had to divide his wealth with his ex-wife. He felt betrayed and alone, but he knew that he needed to move on. In the end, Dimitri learned that money couldn't buy happiness. He had all the wealth and power in the world, but it couldn't save his marriage. He realized that he needed to focus on the things that truly mattered in life, such as love, trust, and loyalty. The experience made him a stronger and wiser man, and he vowed to never let his guard down again. This is another similar story that will shock you. Once upon a time, there was a happily married couple named Sarah and David. They had been together for over a decade and were deeply in love. They met in college and fell in love at first sight. They got married soon after graduation and started building a life together. They were the perfect couple, always holding hands, constantly showing affection, and supporting each other through thick and thin. Sarah and David both worked full-time jobs, but despite their busy schedules, they always found time for each other. They enjoyed traveling, trying new restaurants, and watching movies together. They even started a family and had 2 children, a boy and a girl, whom they loved dearly. Life was good, and they were grateful for each other every day. But one day, David noticed that Sarah was acting strange. She would come home from work late and had started to spend more time on her phone. David didn't think too much of it at first, assuming that Sarah was just busy at work. But as time went on, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. One evening, David decided to follow Sarah. He pretended to go to a friend's house, but instead waited outside their home to see where Sarah would go. To his shock and disbelief, he saw Sarah getting into a car with another man. David was devastated. He couldn't believe that his wife, the love of his life, was cheating on him. Over the next few days, David struggled with what to do. He didn't want to confront Sarah without proof, but he couldn't ignore what he had seen. He tried to put on a brave face in front of his children, but he couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. Finally, he decided to confront Sarah and demanded the truth. At first, Sarah denied everything, but David was persistent. Eventually, Sarah broke down and confessed to the affair. She told David that she had been feeling neglected and unappreciated, and that the other man had shown her attention and affection that she had been missing. David was heartbroken. He couldn't believe that Sarah had thrown away everything they had built together for a fling. For weeks, David and Sarah tried to work things out, but the damage had been done. David couldn't trust Sarah anymore, and their once perfect marriage was shattered. They eventually decided to separate and go their separate ways. David struggled to move on. He felt like a failure as a husband and a father. He couldn't understand how Sarah could betray him like that. He turned to drinking and other vices to cope with the pain. It took him years to come to terms with what had happened and to start rebuilding his life. In the end, David learned that no one is perfect, and even the strongest relationships can be broken by infidelity. He realized that he deserved better and that he couldn't control other people's actions. He focused on being the best father he could be and eventually found love again with someone who valued and appreciated him. David never forgot what happened with Sarah, but he learned to forgive her and himself and move forward with his life. The moral of the story is that communication is key in any relationship. Keeping secrets and hiding the truth can only lead to betrayal and hurt. It's important to address issues and work through them together, rather than resorting to dishonesty and infidelity. Trust is the foundation of a healthy relationship, and once it's broken, it's difficult to repair. Honesty and transparency are crucial for maintaining trust and ensuring the longevity of a relationship. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it and would like to see more, please consider subscribing to our channel. By subscribing, you'll be notified when we release new content, and you'll also be supporting us in creating more videos like this one. So hit that subscribe button and join our community of viewers today.